No, you're going to do, meaning they're going to assert their command,
Correct.
even though they can't force you.
And that's the importance of knowing your rights.
And then having the courage to assert them. They phrase it in a way that you don't think it's an option.
Well, and here's something.
Well, that's my point.
I get it.
So the fear of being in that car, in the driver's seat, and saying, hey, do I disobey this officer of the law?
I know.
But you're not disobeying them.
No, and you, like I said, there is a way you can do this and do it cordially, do it politely. It serves no purpose. I would say this always. To be a jerk during a traffic stop or any encounter with an officer, it will serve you no purpose.
Only hurt. You
can be polite, but take a stand, know your rights, and assert your rights all at the same time. They're not mutually exclusive. And again, back to that case, my client was very polite, never got belligerent, never was a jerk to the officer, and simply said, no, sir. Will you do this? No, step out of the car. That, you probably don't have a choice, right? Once the suspicion is made, step out of the car. That is a command. He gets out of the car, and outside of that, where are you coming from? I'm not going to answer that, sir. I mean, those were like literally, and you almost never see that because people get nervous in the moment. They're scared. I mean, you're on the side of a road with a uniformed police officer with the lights. I mean, it's a scary encounter. Most people get nervous when they get stopped. I don't care if you have nothing in the car and you barely roll to stop. People get nervous. It's a police officer.
Yeah. Well, yeah.
They make the common, the general public nervous.
You feel responsible too, like you want to prove to them,
or
prove
I think that's
that
an
you're
too,
not.
Where you go, well, if I do this, I can maybe get myself out of
But
this.
you never are. I mean, once you start participating in standard field sobriety tests, they nitpick it so bad, like, they took a step before I instructed them to do so.
Sure.
I mean, you're getting arrested if you participate in field sobriety tests. I mean, you just are.
They've already suspected you.
If we conducted one, us three, none of us have been drinking, right? And we did this right now. These aren't normal behaviors. There's not a person our age, or unless you're some elite athlete that's doing plyometric training, that is doing one leg stand. How often are you on one leg? Not. I mean, we're all getting older.
Tell me how to go from K to W in the alphabet backwards right now.
I'm not going to do
Those
that.
are some of the questions. Or count backwards from 77 to 63.
And stop at a specific thing.
Yeah.
Most people have to do the alphabet. They start mouthing it.
You can't sing it.
I'll just Google it.
So my point of that is, as Chris said, these aren't normal human behaviors. Again, unless you're some athlete doing plyometric training on one leg and taking heel-to-toe steps, which is a balance test, and then a series of small steps after you did your 9. You got to turn a specific way. These are difficult.
Just to think a takeaway here is for the clients to realize, or alleged, that their alleged activities or whatever, it's not fair. It's not in your favor.
It isn't.
And it's not fair.
Well, here's one thing.
So don't do it. For that reason alone, hold your ground, and assert your rights.
That's right.
Absolutely. And I think another thing, and we started to brush up against this, and maybe we can come back to it later, but a lot of people are really just in complete, utter shock when I tell them, police are legally allowed to lie to you in their investigation. And they're like, what? I'm like, yes. And I always use the ridiculous example of, you could be in an interview room and they could say, we've got your DNA at the scene, and they don't have your DNA at the scene to try to elicit a confession. That is all fair game. So applying that to what we're talking about in the DWI investigation, when you had mentioned, Scott, sometimes it feels like you don't have a choice, right?
Right.
Well, there's a lot of people when they say, I didn't have a choice, I had to blow. They said if I didn't blow, I was losing my license for a year. That's simply untrue, I mean, could you lose your license for a year? It's possible, but, law enforcement are not attorneys. They don't, there is due process. So you don't just lose your license for a year the second you make that decision on scene. There's due process to fight that. So, but again, a lot of people say, well, if I didn't blow, I was going to lose my license for a year.
Probably the number one thing we hear.
Yes, number
one. Did
one.
you submit to a breathalyzer? They said, yeah, well, why?
I had no choice.
He said I'd lose my license. And then, could it be possible? Yeah.
More often than not, you don't, really.
particularly on a first offense, and then you get into a whole bunch of, then by jurisdiction and so forth. But yes, they can lie to you. But looping back to what we said is, do not submit to them. Again, they're difficult tests to begin with. They're not normal tests that any of us do. Now you add alcohol into that mix. Good luck trying to pass it. And then you're on they're supposed to be objective criteria as to but they're subjective.
If they can lie,
can't keep a straight
it's just right. I mean, it's already subjective.
Yeah,
If they're gonna lie to you,
watching you
you're
and
screwed.
going, this is how I score them. I mean, it's like, think when you submit an essay in school, and you did that to two different teachers, professors, you're not getting the same score back. This isn't some objective. It's similar to that.